Now, moving overseas, Hong Kong reported 103 new COVID-19 cases today. The number of daily new infections is seeing an upward trend in the past week.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam yesterday urged Hong Kong residents to stay at home and avoid unnecessary family gatherings. But as you can see here, well, people are still out and about, albeit with masks on. Well, these were taken by a Hong Kong correspondent earlier this afternoon at Central and the mid-levels.
Meanwhile, the city has announced tighter restrictions on public gathering. For 2 weeks starting today, dine-in services will end 2 hours earlier at 10 p.m. with patrons capped at 2 per table. Bars, pubs, saunas, clubs, nightclubs and party rooms will remain closed. All amusement, game centres, leisure venues, museums, cinemas, theme parks, karaoke establishments, mahjong clubs and swimming pools must be closed as well.
The government could also raise the current fine of 2,000 Hong Kong dollars for those who breach social distancing measures.
The Straits Times' Hong Kong correspondent Claire Huang is here to share more about the situation on the ground. Claire, are the streets less crowded and are people really staying at home? Because from the videos you sent, it surely doesn't look like it.
Well, Yan, for the 10th straight day, we are looking at daily new infections past 70. So clusters are breaking out everywhere. It's like mini fires everywhere, right? And you've got some in eateries, and of course there's the dance club cluster, which is growing, has gone past hundreds of people. Now we've got a construction site in Cheong Kwan O, and 900 people linked to the construction site, Lohas Park development, are supposed to go for tests. Now people are still out and about. The footage that I sent are people, in central area, mid-levels, where they're out at about lunchtime. So during the lunchtime, I think you expect people to be out to, grab a meal, right, a bite. But I think in general, even the past few days and over the weekend, there were heaps of people out and about. I think it's because of, it's the festive season, first of all. People are tired of staying at home. With civil servants working from home now for 2 weeks, I think the private enterprises will start to, some of them at least, will start to follow suit, right? And so that perhaps will keep some people off the streets. But here's a very interesting thing. I've spoken to a local friend, right? And she's like saying that she's still out and about because her idea is that, in terms of the biggest cluster, which is the dance club cluster, right? She's saying that all those people, the socialites, the tai-tais, they go to different places from where she goes. So she feels that she's actually okay going out. So I think that's part of the mentality of some of them whom you see out there. They're saying we don't mix in the same social circle, so I think it's fine.
So Claire, local health authorities have said that this could be Hong Kong's worst COVID-19 wave so far. It's one of those one step forward, 2 steps back instances. So how is that affecting residents like your friend mentally and psychologically?
Well, Ollie, previously there were studies done, one in Q2 and another one in Q1, okay, at least 2 studies done that found alarming results saying that Hong Kongers are depressed and, the mental health is on the decline. And it's been worsened by the pandemic. Here's where I point out that, a lot of the younger Hong Kongers were depressed because, they had, it was a sort of a fallout from the unrest last year. And then after that, it was followed up by the COVID-19 pandemic, right? So that's kind of weighed down on them. And then, in Hong Kong, unemployment, particularly for the younger age groups, has been on the rise every quarter this year. So, it's a bit of a doom and gloom here. Here's where I point out that Hong Kong is a late night city. And it's because the houses here are tiny and squeezy, so people like to stay out. They don't really like to go home. They like to go to the karaoke lounges where they can sing, eat, drink, hang out outside, because it's stuffy staying in shoebox units, which most Singaporeans would not have, would not really have to suffer with, right? So having to stay at home is quite a challenge for some of the people here, for a lot of the people here, particularly those who live in coffin homes, subdivided flats. So where do they go? Of course, they stay out. They stay out in the parks, but then you need to get shelter, right? And then it's cold now because it's winter. So the silver lining over here is that despite all these doom and gloom, you can still exercise. There are plenty of areas you can go for hiking strolls, and if you're outdoor exercising, you can actually remove your mask, which affords a breather of sorts. Yeah.
So Claire, I want to pick up on the point where you said, they are staying in because of the weather as well. And earlier on, before we got on air with you, we were talking about the winter ahead. So are the authorities taking further precautions to brace for the colder weather?
Well, the government here has been cautioning about the fourth wave of the pandemic since September, October, when the third wave was tapering off, right? And like South Korea and Japan, when it's cold and it's influenza season, having COVID is double whammy. So they were afraid that it would become very serious. As it is, we actually have a respiratory tract infection outbreak in schools. The good thing is that schools are now closed until next year. So, people are trying to get flu jabs and they don't have enough. So they were quite angry with the government, about this. For COVID specifically, though, there's a silver lining of sorts. Health Secretary Sophia Chan said today that the government will provide free vaccines for all residents. 3 million of them will get it first. These people are those who are like medical workers, home care staff, care home staff, and then you've got the elderly and those with chronic diseases. So these people, this group will get the vaccines first, and then Hong Kong is looking at mainland and overseas vaccines and will provide at least 2 doses for each resident, and they will come from different manufacturer.
I see. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Claire. Take care over there. That was our Hong Kong correspondent, Claire Huang.